I asked 5 past and present iRacing eNASCAR Coca-Cola Series pros to find out how they made the Pro Series and what were some of the things that were needed to get there. But first, a quick rundown on how Road to Pro works. iRacing Road to Pro is an open series that is free for all A-Class oval drivers to sign up and join. From there, round 1 consists of 8 races, and to advance from there you have to finish in the top 70 of overall championship points to move on to round 2. To advance out of round 1 in 2022 you would have needed 1,516 points. Average that out across the season, not counting the one drop week you get, and this is about 217 points per race. So this table right here shows the conversion between those points and what finish you would need per the strength of field. After round 1, there's round 2, where the top 70 drivers are then snaked into 2 splits via their championship points in round 1, and there's another 7 race season where there's one drop week as well. Then a certain number of drivers advance from there, starting at 20, but it could be more depending on how many Coke Series drivers from the previous years retire. They then get their pro license and run in the eNASCAR Contender Series, where they face the bottom half of the Coke Series field from the previous season and fight for those top 20 spots to get back into the Coke Series. And that's how you make the eNASCAR iRacing Coca-Cola Series. Sounds easy, right? Well, let's ask a couple drivers how they did it. Alright, so I am here with Liam Brotherton, 2022 Coke Series driver for Elliott Sadler Esports, Wyatt Tinsley, driver of the number 20 Pioneers Toyota, driver of the number 40 for Latart Esports, and the 2023 Coke Series Dylan Alt, Parker White, driver of the number 11 Canon Esports Toyota, and I'm here with Derek Justice, driver of the number 31 Kansas City Pioneers Toyota. How many years were you in sim racing before you went pro, and how long do you think it took you to reach that pro level?
An absolute eternity. Far too long, as some might say. I think I would say it's about 5 years.
I'm super new to the pro side, and I was sim racing for about a year.
So I've been into iRacing for about 3 years now.
I've been sim racing since NR 2003. So I've been sim racing since 2005, but I didn't get into iRacing on a serious level since 2018, even though I signed up for the service in 2013.
Yeah, I started iRacing in 2017 when before I was 13 years old, and I started in April or so, but my birthday's in July, so it's just a little bit before.
One of the things that people usually try to go for when going to Road to Pro is getting on a Road to Pro team. How did you first get noticed by a team?
So you must be the most weird answer you get all day. But as reference to that NASCAR Hall of Fame deal, so I was racing there because it was cheaper than buying iRacing and a rig and all that stuff.
Oh, really?
I would just go down there once a week. Yeah, you had a membership, so I would just buy that once per year, go down whenever I wanted to Uptown and do that. And one day, it was Charlotte, my first time driving Charlotte, and Brian Blackford was in the line. I didn't know who he was at the time, but I did know of 2 drivers in Coke, Michael Connie and Ray Alfalla. And I started talking to Brian about iRacing and all this stuff, and he mentioned that he's Ray Alfalla's teammate, and they drive for Slip Angle. And so we got to chatting. I beat him on the leaderboards that day. We had lunch together, stayed friends with them. So Brian wound up helping me almost a year later get iRacing, and so I was just immediately on Slip Angle. So that just kind of took me from there, and I kind of went around the block to get to ESC. But
so you got your foot in the door just by kind of who you knew at the time, who you were able to make connections with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was mostly just getting recognized by racing officials. I did a lot of fixed racing in 2021 to try to improve my overall skills, like I said, just with tire saving. Eventually it came to July, and Brian Blackford had started the Slide Job 300, and I joined a lot of the practice sessions, and one of the current members of NFR that noticed me in there, and then he recommended me to NFR, and that's really the reason I got on NFR was just by doing those COT races. So just kind of getting your name out there by doing officials and just kind of the big event races is what'll make you noticeable by teams.
I had to ask around because I was really new. I didn't know anything about open setups at the start of the January of Road to Pro 2022. Had no Road to Pro, and I had to ask my good friend Parker White, now my teammate, and he kind of helped me get on a team called Tranquility, and they really helped me get through round 1. I was able to make round 1, and then I got on round 2. And then I started round 2, I switched over to North Source.
When I was running in our 2003 FTF series, when FTF was still with NR, there were a couple guys that were iRacing. Michael Guest, Colin Keisher. As soon as I transitioned to iRacing in 2018, they already knew they had speed, so I kind of got lucky, I guess. Get on dead zone for 2019?
To get on SVG, I think I knew DJ and he was the owner of the team, so I talked to him a bit, waited to get on the team, but for Lowline, that was a more serious of a team, has a big background. I was kind of nervous to try to get on that team, but I knew one of the drivers, Brian Mercurio. I raced with him on FTF, in that FTF league. He knew who I was. He knew that I was sort of a clean driver, like I was fast and stuff. It seemed like everybody on that team knew who I was, so I felt very welcomed when I joined that team.
So what do you think was more important, like your literal I rating, or how you were driving in those leagues against people, or even just beating some of those people and officials? What do you think had them have the best impression of you?
I think the I rating played a part. It showed that I raced a lot. I was committed. And yeah, also the racecraft needs to be there. How I am as a person too. I don't go on iRacing chat and start yelling at people. I would say I'm kind of quiet over race chat.
For your run for Road to Pro and Contenders, how much time did you spend preparing per week, and what did you do during that time?
The prep would kind of vary from week to week, but on average, I'd say I did about 12 hours of driving for each race, and most of my time would be spent doing 30 lap runs by myself. That would help me know what setup is best, just improving my overall driving on the track. And the rest of that time would be spent in pack tests with my teammates, and that would help us figure out what strategy to use for the race and like what setup adjustments we need for dirty air.
I would say every day around 2-3 hours. Some races I would spend like 6 hours in a day, 8 hours in a day.
So it was all over the place for me. I was never the guy that wanted to do a bunch of time in iRacing, but there were races where I had done well over 1,000 laps before we get to the race. And that's mostly all just doing 30s and testing different setups back and forth. So it's just a lot of Excel documents and telemetry to try and get the setup better.
Well, RTP and Contender are totally two different things because, Contender, there's no week breaks. RTP is, you got one, then you got 2 weeks in advance. So RTP, it's about probably 1 or 2 hours a day, 4 days a week for preparing for RTP. Then on Mondays before the race, we start on queue. But during Contender, it's about about 2-3 hours a day, almost every day, because you got a race and you got the next following week you got a race. So that's roughly about two hours a day at least to prepare for a Contender, prepare to RTP.
And what skills do you think were the most important during your Road to Pro run?
Probably my mental, and then could be just having a good setup each week. It really goes a long way. And then also being able to not make mistakes. In Contender, the first 3 to 4 rounds, I was on and off pit road, executed. I didn't necessarily qualify the best, but I was still up in the front to qualify to where I was able to drive through the front and get a good finish. So it's just about executing and just having the best mental and having people in your box as well.
Qualifying matters the most. Basically, the bigger competition there's going to be less passing. Because there's also short races, so you can't really pass at all. Everyone's going to be single file. Track position matters. Track position is key. Being consistent is also big. You need to be consistent. You can't make mistakes.
Honestly, probably not even like outright talent. It's a lot of how you approach races and how you deal with problems and how you learn to train yourself to deal with those issues. I was not good at that at first. I was really bad about just flipping out and Kurt Busch mode activated, like absolute. I was gone at that point. Would kind of derail myself. With some guys like Kyle Putz really did help me initially to try and get my mindset better. Brandon Cattell to make me more aggressive, so I stopped getting wrecked all the time. Now I am the wrecker in that sense.
And on top of that, are there any other challenges that people may not realize about making pro?
Well, the challenges that people don't even realize that it's a lot of mental. You just gotta put your head down and don't thinking about bad things that might happen to you. It's a lot of mental preparation.
Like I think the biggest thing that most people do not realize is just how much time it will take and how many solo runs you should really be doing, because I see a lot of these guys and some current members of NFR that didn't do as much solo runs last year, and they either came close to not making it or didn't make it at all. So you have to be willing to put the time in, and you will succeed.
The first couple races of Road to Pro round 1, I had something going on in my life, and it really didn't help me to really grind for pro in that sense. But sometimes you just gotta make decisions, and it really helps out.
I would say all of the inner workings of teams and people bouncing around different organizations and how to balance yourself to be aligned with the right people and not make the wrong people mad, right? You get one of those teams that has 20 people mad at you, it's going to make it really hard because all of a sudden every single car is mad at you, the whole field, and they're not going to cut you any slack. So
Reputation.
I think they reputation, right? You're in most iRacing, like, sure, maybe they kind of know you, but you don't wind up with people you don't know having a grudge against you because of something you did to their teammate. Like, that's not something that typically shows up until you get to that level. And you wreck a Nexus car, and then the other Nexus cars are all mad at you. So yeah, that's probably something they don't quite realize.
All right, and then do you have any advice for somebody aspiring to go pro in iRacing?
Don't. No, okay. We cut that one out, but it was too funny right there. I would say my biggest advice is to not get so caught up in making Coke and about your ego and proving something to yourself, but rather just grinding it out to whatever you can improve.
First, I would say you need to be committed. You need to at least you need to be passionate about it, one way or another. Also, your mental toughness needs to be strong. You need to be very confident in yourself that you can do it, that you can make it into the Coke Series. Also, another thing, you need to race a lot. I would say race fixed and fixed only, just because you can blame only yourself, not the car, not the setup at all. The more friends that you make that are also better than you, you can learn from them. So if you learn from them, you'll learn even quicker than other people.
Obviously, the number one answer is seat time. Like, you're not going to be good off the get go if you're trying iRacing for the first time. You're not going to be fast. You got to put the work in, a lot of seat time. But as far as landing on a team, my best advice to you, even though, like I said, my journey was different, run a lot of fixed races. And while you're doing a lot of fixed races, make your way up in the top split. Don't try to start on a pole and lead every lap. Start in the back. When people see you start in the back and they see your racecraft that you can go through the field without wrecking people, a lot of people will take notice. Oh, okay, he knows how to maneuver around track and get up to the front. Like, if you start in the front every race, people don't know how you're gonna react, how you get into the middle of the field. Like, do you get timid or whatever?
My best advice is to have seat time, be good and a good mental state. So mentality is really good, and just overall have fun with it. I mean, if you stress about pro, it's really not gonna be a good experience, and you won't want to do it again.
Right.
Probably the biggest thing is just to have fun with it. Like, this year, I've just been having fun with it. I've just been rolling with it. I know, like, I'm a big task here in the Coke Series. My main goal this year is just to have fun with it.
Yeah, so the pro level in iRacing is like obviously really competitive, and you really have to just make sure you have fun with it, because if you're not having fun with it, you're going to lose some motivation, and you won't have the motivation to keep pushing yourself to the limit. And yeah, just basically having fun is the biggest thing.
Leave any questions you have down below. I'm sure at least a few of those guys will be hopping around the comments seeing if anyone has anything to ask from them. But overall, it just seems like a mixture of how much time you got, what you know, and who you know. But other than that, thank you all for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you all on the track.